It is the most beautiful day. The sun is up, it is warm yet not hot. Pleasant breeze is upkeeping your comfort. Birds are singing songs of which words you do not understand, yet you know in your gut to be cheerful. Everything seems to be alive, colorful, in harmony with the whole world. You walk through all of this thinking to yourself, life is good. But as all things come to an end, such as this stroll, you come home, turn on your PC, phone, TV, no matter the device of your choice, you wanna see other people enjoying life as you, yourself, just enjoy it greatly. But instead you are unlucky, and the first thing you see and hear is yet another political discord. Your day is not ruined, but now it is not as beautiful as you thought it would be. You can say that New World settlers had it way worse back in 17th century. They had to face grave dangers on daily basis, working hard for the survival and well-being of their communities. Add to that ghosts, witches, demonology, and other sorts of supernatural, and you get a setting for the game named Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. I remember MMORPG from Amazon Games called New World. Had a similar setting, yet the stories told in both games differ very much. Banishers focuses on personal tragedies of both living and the dead, and you play a role of late 1600s Ghostbuster essentially. It is very interesting premise offered by Don't Not Entertainment. They are known to develop games with somewhat unusual stories and settings. I played only one of their previous titles, namely Vampire. It was only for a few hours, mind you, because I didn't really enjoy the gameplay there. Oh boy, it doesn't look very promising from the get-go, right? Well, wrong. I started the game with fresh and open mind, and let me tell you, I was very impressed in the opening hours. But after a while, when I was enjoying a decent game, I got smacked right in the face, just like after that walk on a beautiful day that I described at the start. So let's dive into the essence of what happened with this game, and by the end of it, you're gonna know what I think about all of that shebang. The whole thing starts nicely with a scene on a boat, where our protagonists Red McRae and Antea Duarte are caught in conversation. It is a beautiful chilly June night. It is very foggy and cloudy, yet you can see the moon behind the veil. Our heroes begin their journey to the town of New Eden. They came here after receiving a distress letter from their old friend, which happens to be also a pastor in the before-mentioned town. It all goes wrong pretty fast. It is promptly revealed that their friend is dead, and plenty of residents took their leave already. You got informed by influential figures of this community about the terrible curse that has been laid upon them. This is the main plot of the game. This is it. Now you are responsible for getting to the bottom of this, to banish the ghosts and lift the curse. Death to the dead, life to the living. As I mentioned before, it all goes very wrong very fast. One of our protagonists, Antea, goes to investigate the case in the middle of the night all alone, without Red's assistance. He wakes up sometime after, and goes to find his partner. As you already assumed correctly, Antea gets killed and Red got smacked almost to the death himself. What a disaster. But wait, no all is lost. Injured Scotsman wakes up in the cave near the seaside, with a strange young woman at his side. Okay, I'm not going to tell you the whole story here, hell no. I just wanted to grasp how interesting of a beginning it has. I was really impressed and wanted to play more, to know more, to experience more. In some moments the story was very emotional, even for an old Scottish bastard like myself, aye. I'm going to talk about different aspects of the game as we go on, as I always do, but firstly I would like to tell you about the main focus of the game. Characters that you'll meet, both living and the dead alike. They are very diverse, distinct and well acted. Yes, I know, the cold shiver went through your spine as you heard the word diverse there. Keeping in mind that I more or less know what the title of this video will be. But wait, and hear me out. This is a good kind of diversity, the likes you want in your stories. Some of the characters are likable, others dislikable. They have their characteristics and that is all fine. We want many different stories in our games with a plentiful of actors to watch. But wait again, we have one bad actor here, and I am not talking about the professional performer behind the scene, but about the puppeteer who was pulling the strings and inserted unwanted contents here. Okay, I'm gonna be straight here and tell you right away what I think and suspect. Overall stories and world building here is good, or at least decent. Some talented people worked hard on this, I am sure. But someone else went there and messed it all up, putting not fitting sentences here and there, and it would be possible if not for a cardinal sin that they made along the way. They built the whole character to be a vehicle for the political propaganda and so-called message. Antea Duarte, she got back from the dead to haunt not only her lover and partner, Redrick McGrave, but us, the players, as well. Oh man, oh boy, where do I even begin? This is very strange indeed, because for the brief time she was alive in-game, I thought nothing of her. Everything seemed to be just fine, nothing suspicious. It is when she came back problems started. She is constantly criticizing and putting down other characters that we interact with. Even her own love, Redrick. So many untasteful remarks that diminishes the joy from exploring all of the different people along the way. Antea only cheers when some of the women get their revenge on men, despite of the fact that it is simply wrongdoing and should be treated as such. This is toxic femininity embraced in its worst form, and it even feels wrong to say it out loud, because the topics shown in the game are dead serious and should be handled carefully and respectfully. Instead, we got Miss Duarte coming down as a mean asshole and ruining the whole thing most of the time. It is baffling because she even got backstory that was written well for her. So she could be one of the main assets for this game, but someone decided otherwise. All the nonsense that she's spewing detracts from her personal story. And why the hell she blames Red in the end for her death? It was clearly her fault. She went alone to face the unknown, instead of getting support from her closest ally. Bloody hell, and the constant remarks when exploring world, the unfunny jokes reminds me of failed projects in Marvel Cinematic Universe. What a blunder. Game keeps putting down Red McGrave, telling him this or that woman is better than him. I grew really tired of this clearly forced bullshit. Begone with that bullying of a red-head white male. Let's bring a fellow Scotsman a round of our finest on the house, aye? All jokes aside, there are strong anti-colonist and anti-patriarchy vibes here. In the game about North American settlers, imagine that. The only thing they do successfully though is polluting the story told here, which is not a bad story in its core, just mirrored out on the edges with stupid propaganda lines, which would not have a place back then and there. I know, it is a literary fantasy. But still, it feels more like polluted fan fiction more than anything. Hell, even in different side stories the best man for the job is a woman. What about load of crap? I like having a strong woman in charge. This sentence spoken by one of the NPCs sounds the game narrative the most accurate, I believe. At least lore in written sources is not from poisoned well. so it is very atmospheric and interesting to read. Overall, writing for this game feels like it was made by two different entities. First one that tried to construct convincing world and lore for players to enjoy, and the second one that smeared all of it using so-called the message that makes decent folk sick. But let us put all of this aside for a moment and talk about the gameplay, because I suspect you wanna know if the game we are talking about is actually fun to play, right? When I first started the game and took control of the characters, it felt smooth and responsive. It felt good. At the beginning, combat is very simple yet effective and pretty pleasant. The problems arise when you progress further in the game, and the number of combination of moves can rival some of the characters from arcade fighting games. But it is all smoke and mirrors, because of the items which gonna funnel you into playing certain builds, with only a few effective moves to use in combat. What I liked the most about the combat was the fact that you can actually don't need to use lock-on mechanic to be successful, which is very nice change after all of those Souls-like games, where it is almost impossible to fight effectively without using or abusing lock-on button. This is a big plus from me, because as far as in games like World of Warcraft, selecting target is a viable gameplay mechanic, for single-player third-person fighting action games, it is annoying and immersion-breaking. There is also an interesting tag team mechanic when you switch champions during fight, depending on situation or personal preference. Not bad at all, but one aspect of it is lacking, because when you dodge as red you can still make a smooth combo out of evasion, but for some reason Ante only gets to do one punch hit, and then after a short delay you can make a combo. I am slightly disappointed. Besides the melee combat, you got a musket at your disposal as well, but mechanically it sucks a little bit, because you need to hold aim button in order to reload it. Still, if upgraded musket can be a very powerful tool in fights, allowing you to headshot enemies left, right and center. What disappointed me the most in combat scenarios were the boss battles, which were unoriginal and boring, to be honest. You do one or two mechanics over and over again until the big bad is dead. I mean, banished. Besides them, the enemy variety is really on the lower side. You fight same several enemies over and over again. The only changes come in form of void pathways, where you get an affix which tells you what you need to use in order to deal decent damage to enemies, but it has the adverse effect to the intended one. Instead of making fights more varied and challenging, it turns them into one-trick pony fests. Really disappointing. One more thing that bothers me is that you cannot escape when you enter the combat. Most of your traversing skills are locked down and you are forced to kill, banish, all of the remaining enemies. Okay, so what about the gameplay outside of combat? What it is all about? Oh well, let me tell you then. Like in many story-driven games, you are a detective of sorts, which consists of talking to people, both living and the dead in this title, and with investigation of all sorts of clues, which can be written pages, items that indicate something, or a material covered in spectral essence, which in turn can give you access to the visions of the past events. It is all similar to the things we already seen in games like Witcher 3 or Alan Wake 2, but I got a major gripe with the version which Banishers provides us with. Very simply too many meaningless items to interact with, that do not further our investigation in any meaningful way. You could say it is more realistic that way, but I would argue that it is still a video game, which should provide fine gameplay over realism of the actions and situations inside of it. And we got yet another game with world-altering gameplay mechanic where you need to switch between two versions of the same places in order to progress the game. I was reminded not so long ago in Alan Wake 2 how much I dislike those types of mechanics. Oh well, maybe I am just old and cranky. Still, I am half happy to report that in Banishers, game tells you when to use it, so it is at least fast and easy to deal with. On the other hand, you will need to make many decisions during your playthrough, which will affect the story and the game world alike. This is a decent system, I would say. I have only one gripe with it. Characters act inconsequential on different stages of hunting quests, even before you make your choice. Writing could use many improvements in this department because it is odd that they act if you said one thing, but in reality you chose another option. Oh well. Another not very fitting thing in this title is that you find many important items lying around unprotected, like a key to the military arsenal sitting there in a random room, ready for grabs. Oh gosh, oh geez. What else was there? Ah yes, the roots puzzle repeated over and over again has driven me mad, I think. I wish developers had some more ideas instead of using the same one so often that you are sick of it. If you can't think of anything else, just lessen the amounts of what you already got. Ah, on the note of overabundance, upgrading equipment is fine besides one point. There is too many different materials, which would be of no importance or consequence if some merchants didn't sell those. But they do. So if you wanna know which one you need, you're gonna have to check out which upgrade needs which material before you buy it, for a hefty sum from before mentioned merchants. It's a small thing but still annoying. Most games deal with it in a simple matter of giving players easily distinguishable upgrade materials in not many forms, so they can easily identify them right away when they see them on offer. But never mind that. Let's talk about map and world design now. It is way more interesting topic, I think. So the game has a hybrid structure when it comes to its level design. World map is semi-open, meaning you can venture off quest path pretty far, but still it is a set of predefined corridors where your movement is confined inside of them. Oftentimes it feels like famous God of War when it comes to traversing the game world. Very similar structure, feels like a PlayStation game, even though it is multi-platform from the get-go. What impressed me the most here were the markers on your compass that do a very good job of guiding you through the labyrinths of pathways in the wilds. Overall, I really enjoyed the world as well as traveling through it, with a few exceptions, of course. Firstly, in some places, to be precise, in human settlements, there is too many icons on your compass, which makes it hard to navigate in those areas. Secondly, you cannot save game during void tunnels. What a stupid way to make players frustrated. Alarm set in my phone lets me know it is about time to go to work, yet I cannot save my progress. Who the hell greenlit this bullcrap? Thirdly and finally, when I got stuck and could not progress the main mission, I consulted Google search after plenty of wasted time, and I found out that I needed to complete one of the minor side activities in order to continue. And all of it because my choice to spare someone. I was furious. This is the kind of bullshit game design that we could do without. And that's pretty much about it. Okay, so we got the story and gameplay sides of the game covered. So it is now time to talk about the technical and artistic aspects of Banishers. First thing worth mentioning is the fact that the game uses Unreal Engine 5, and quite effectively I might add. It is not even how the game looks, because if someone told me that it was Unreal Engine 4, I would believe without questioning it. I am more impressed about scalability, because I could easily go from 60 frames per second to over 100 just by lowering a few settings, with the game looking almost the same when standing still. All I would sacrifice is more pop-ins, which I am used to from other games, so that was a price I was willing to pay. There is no nanite implemented here, so yes, pop-ins are still a thing. Early version of Unreal 5 was used here, I suppose, but experiencing it with a good implementation it eases my fear about next Witcher game. Now, I think it was a good decision from CD Projekt Red to change engine for future developments. Oh gosh, I got sidetracked here. So, graphically game is looking very good. Nothing mind-blowing, but nothing to sneeze at either. Small hint here, if you wanna remove film grain filter, you need to lower post-processing setting to at least medium. Artistically, it is all very consistent, pleasant to watch and to be in the game world, even if it's a very hostile environment. The most impressive is how the forests look, great detailed vegetation and very good mist effects. And some views are breathtaking, really great job here. What's not so good on the other hand are animations and lip sync. They are not the best, but also not the worst I've seen. I mean, they suffice, but still I would prefer them a little bit better, especially considering how much time you're gonna spend watching all those characters talking. What is funny and pretty unnatural is how NPCs are shaking and nodding their heads too fast and too often in conversations. I think they may be cursed by the plague of restless heads. But what about audio side of the game? Ah yes, let me tell you about it. Sounds are pleasing to the ear, but volume levels are changing during cutscenes, sometimes fluidly, other times abruptly. But other than that, I was especially impressed by the nature sounds, how good they nomen omen sounded, and how well placed they were. In New Harrow's location I started to search for a bird that I had. Then I remembered that I'm playing a video game, not strolling through woods and fields. Very impressive stuff. Also, music fits the theme perfectly and makes for the most appropriate atmosphere. There is not very much of it and you won't get unforgettable hits like from other games, but still, good job here. There is one more thing worth mentioning. Game is almost entirely bug-free, which, considering many releases in recent years, seems very impressive and worth praising. This is how it should be by default. This should be the standard, but unfortunately it isn't. Good thing that nowadays games have automatic patching. I still remember the dark times of 90s and early 2000s, when you had to buy a gaming magazine or go to the internet cafe in order to even get a patch for your game. Oh boy, how much has changed. Okay, so until now it almost seemed like a pretty much normal, run-of-the-mill grade late review. Yes, I was ranting a little bit at the start, but now comes the time to sum it up. So the bulk of my complaints will be here. I would love to use many uncensored, even vulgar words, sentences and expressions here, but I will not do that. I will remain as calm as I can despite the fact that technically sound game was ruined by all the message bullshit. Very sad to witness something like this. Of course, without it, Banishers Ghost of New Eden would not be some masterpiece in video gaming world, but still, it would be a decent game with a few annoying elements, but overall with great theme and atmosphere throughout. Instead, it is stained and unredeemable attempt to corrupt the very medium that we grew to love and enjoy. This is unacceptable. Funny thing being that villainize here so-called evil white man. One of them grows to be the star of the show. Kind, courageous, helpful yet flawed. Red McGrave was really the only reason I kept playing this pile of shite, and believe me, I felt like stopping and uninstalling after every morning sentence that I had. Some may argue that Redrick was weak, that he didn't stand his ground in opposition to all the crap said around him, and yet I disagree. He did the best he could in the circumstances he found himself in. He helped as many as he could, instead of arguing to no avail. Besides, many of his words we've chosen ourselves in the dialogue options, so there's that. Even the ending of the story is the reflection of your choices. In case of my playthrough, he remained a true man, doing what was right, despite that he would wish it to be otherwise. But I watched other endings on YouTube and they were not to my liking, so I guess I have chosen wisely. I'll say it again, I got a feeling that the writing team had two sides to it. The first is the one that wanted to tell a good story, to build a believable world, while the second side ignored all of the previously mentioned efforts, just to insert the terrible and toxic takes on history, society and so-called power struggle, where it should be in fact the tale of persistence, cooperation and surviving against all odds in the harsh conditions. So much wasted potential that my head spins and hurts. To be completely honest, I try to stay clear from the topic. I even tried to convince myself when the whole shebang with Sweet Baby Incorporated was going on that I have no role to play in that. But now I see clearly. First they came for our films, I said nothing. Then they came for our media, I said nothing. Now they come for our games, and I say, stop, this is the line. Every one of us has to stand their ground somewhere, and I believe it is better for all of us to stand the common ground. Yes, I am guilty, I am at fault here, because I haven't protested sooner. I was too comfortable in consuming all the entertainment simply because there is overabundance of it, and no one can experience it all during their lifetime, I thought. But it is wrong thinking, ladies and gentlemen. It is like if doctor said, don't worry, it's just a little bit of cancer, you got almost your whole body left to enjoy. You would think he was out of his mind, and you would be right. Funny thing being that I enjoyed YouTube content criticizing modern toxic politics in films and games. I watch it and listen to it, not thinking that it is also my battle to fight. Now I see clearly, my eyes are wide open. You can even say I have awakened, and I hope I'll stay woke, in order to watch out for that kind of poisonous contents, and that I will act accordingly. Stay woke. Sad thing how this very serious phrase was co-opted for the mean-spirited actions of people who I don't even think know the genesis of the wording. You can look it up if you don't. This is not the place to talk about it, but still, I want you to educate yourselves. And maybe you think I am taking all of that too seriously. That I am overreacting, that I work myself up over nothing. If that's the case, maybe someday you'll come to the same point as I found myself recently. And maybe then you will think fondly of this video and many others that you watched or listened to over the years. For the rest of you who are past that point, keep on pushing back. Reason will prevail in the end. I finally started doing my part, so I look into the future with a healthy amount of optimism, fueled with righteous rage. Ah yes, I almost forgot. Let us not go to other side of the spectrum. There are self-righteous fanatics on both ends. Remember that. On that strange note, I guess that's all this time around. I'll find you next time in another Raid Late Review.